Hi everybody, this is Mr. Zoeller, and today I'm going to be presenting to you a screencast on the Missouri Compromise and the Compromise of 1850. So you can see here a list of states that are in the United States by 1819. So over here on the left side we have the free states, which are states that have no slavery at all, and then on the right side we have the slave states, and the states down here in blue are the original 13 states or colonies. And then you can see each of the states in the order that they were entered into the Union or the United States. And you can see there's an equal balance between free and slave states. And the reason why that was important early on in United States history was to make sure that the fate of slavery, we wouldn't have slavery be allowed everywhere, nor could it be banned everywhere if in the U.S. Senate there was an equal number of senators from both sides. So the question comes up later is Missouri is wanting to be added as a state, and so Northerners were against adding Missouri to the Union as a slave state because it would disrupt the balance of power in Congress between slave and free states. So Missouri was wanting to be added as a slave state over here, which would have upset that balance. So the question is, what do we do about Missouri? And so the decision for that is we're going to add two states at the same time. So Maine in the northeastern part of the United States will be added in 1820 as a free state, and Missouri will be added as a slave state. And so that was the main part of the Missouri Compromise here, and that keeps the equal balance between free and slave states. The other part is, what about the future of slavery? How are we going to know the new territories heading out west where slavery can and cannot exist? And so the other part of the Missouri Compromise was a line that was drawn on the map called the 3630 line. And in that, as you can see right here, any future state added north of this line would be free, and then any future state added below this line would be, or south of this line, would be slave. And this was just in regards to the Louisiana territory, not to any other land over here. Because earlier on, the line was the Mason-Dixon line and the Ohio River Valley, or the Ohio River right here. So north would be free, south would be slave. So the compromise is we'll add Maine as a free state up here in 1820. Missouri is added as a slave state in 1821. And in the future, in the Arkansas Territory, you could bring slaves there, while there would be no slavery allowed in the unorganized territory, which is the rest of the Louisiana Purchase. And then remember, the Oregon Country in an earlier video talked about the United States and the British are both jointly occupying that. And so slavery is going to be allowed in part of the Louisiana Purchase. So north it's banned, south it's allowed. So north, no slavery, south, slavery. That's one way to remember the north and south. North starts with an N, so north, no slavery. South starts with an S, south, slavery. And this is going to begin to create kind of an idea known as sectionalism, where each section or region of the United States is going to feel that they are better than another part of the country, and they're more devoted to it. So you'll begin to have people living here in the southern states believe that they are Southerners and want to help out their Southern cause, and then Northerners in the northern states where there is no slavery are going to start to band together. And this is going to lead to future conflict in our country. So I want you to go ahead and pause the video and answer the questions down below, and then when you're done, go ahead and resume. Alright, let's go ahead and continue. So let's look at the Compromise of 1850. So you can see the map here. So we're jumping ahead a number of years. So by this time we have already had the Mexican-American War. The United States has already claimed the southern region of the Oregon Country. And the issue is that California wants to be admitted as a state. So the goal for the Compromise of 1850 is you should be able to illustrate the causes and effects of the Compromise of 1850. So southern states are going to be opposed to the entry of California, and that's because California wants to enter the Union or the United States as a free state. And once again, like we had with Missouri earlier, that's going to upset the balance of free and slave states. And so great Henry Clay, who is the Speaker of the House, is going to come up with the Compromise of 1850, and he is also responsible for helping in the Missouri Compromise much, much earlier. So if we look over here, Maine, and then we have Missouri added 1820, 1821, keeping that equal balance. And then as more states are added, we're trying to keep that balance. And now, suddenly, in 1850, California wants to be admitted into the Union as a free state. So Senator Henry Clay of Kentucky had helped to settle the Missouri crisis of 1819 to 1820, and the nullification crisis of 1832 to 33, also by helping with those process. So he has another plan to help the nation maintain peace, and his ideas were given for both sides that they wanted. So here is kind of the map of what the Compromise of 1850 is going to do. So number one over here we have California. The first part of the compromise is added as a free state. And we'll look at some of the other parts here. So first part, we have California is added as a free state. Secondly, the rest of the Mexican cession would be divided into two parts, the Utah Territory and New Mexico Territory. And we would allow popular sovereignty in those areas, which means, looking back here at the map, that Americans living in these two territories would get to vote. And if a majority voted to have slavery, then slavery would be allowed. And if a majority of them, or over half, voted no, then there would be no slavery allowed. The slave trade is also going to end in Washington, D.C., so that means in our capital of our country you can no longer purchase or sell slaves. And one of the most controversial parts is going to be the Fugitive Slave Law that was passed. That's going to give Southerners the right to get their slaves back that have run away to the North, and I'll cover that in a future video. So Henry Clay's plan did draw some attack, especially regarding California. Senator William Seward of New York defended anti-slavery views and wanted California admitted directly, without conditions, without qualifications, and without compromise. However, Senator John C. Calhoun of South Carolina, so remember he used to be the vice president under Andrew Jackson, argued that letting California enter as a free state would destroy the nation's balance. He warned people of issues that would later start the Civil War. Calhoun asked that the slave states be allowed to separate and part in peace. So we're having calls for secession over this issue of California being admitted. So the compromise was enacted that year and seemed to settle most disputes between free and slave states. It achieved the majority of Clay's proposals. With the compromise of 1850, once again California was able to enter the Union as a free state. The rest of the Mexican cession was divided into two territories, Utah and New Mexico, where the question of whether to allow slavery would be decided by popular sovereignty, or it means let the people choose it themselves, popular vote. And so here's California added as a free state in 1850. So Utah and New Mexico would be open to slavery by popular sovereignty, so allow the people to vote and decide that there. In the nation's capital in Washington, D.C., the slave trade is banned, and then we have the Fugitive Slave Law that's been passed. So go ahead and pause the video here at the end and answer these final questions about the Compromise of 1850. And once again, this is Mr. Zoeller. Have a great day. See you all later. Bye-bye.